I'm ready to go. Is Luca a fake polyglot?
Safe to say, exposed.
Exposed. Exposed. When it comes to YouTube, when it comes to producing videos in general, what you can do is that you can show amazing language skills without necessarily having amazing language skills. You can cut, you can edit, you can rehearse, you can prepare, etc., etc. So it's an excellent point. It's a fair point that
The world of language learning is not always a happy place. Sometimes people leave nasty, hurtful, and derogatory comments. Today, we take a closer look at some of these comments directed at one fellow, the polyglot legend known as Luca Lampariello. Luca, thank you for joining us today.
so dramatic, such a dramatic introduction. Oh my God, what's going to happen in this video? I'm kidding.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, these comments are quite dramatic, and therefore I need to do them justice because some people are not happy with you, Luca, and we need to see why.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's right, folks. A lot of people have a lot of comments, a lot of critiques about many polyglots, including Luca himself. And so today, we're going to look at some of the comments directed at Luca, his language skills, and even his methods. Luca, are you ready to begin?
I'm ready to go. Is Luca a fake polyglot? Kidding.
Good question. Good question. All right, very first question here is referring to the BDT, your bi-directional translation method, and also your way of familiarizing / memorizing vocabulary. The comment says, "Wow, your method sounds like an absolute chore. I would bore myself to tears in a few days."
Okay, well, I always say that the bidirectional translation is a method that requires attention. When people complain about poor retention, I think they have an attention problem. So that's the reason why the BDT or the bidirectional translation method is a method where, yes, you do have to sit down. And yes, you do have to spend 45 to 60 minutes every day paying attention to a lot of details, but that's the entire point of the bidirectional translation method. And as I say, there's a lot of methods. So if this person left this comment, just the mere idea of using the bidirectional translation is a chore, or it's not something he would like to spend his time on because he prefers doing something else, that's fantastic. The world is big, and there's a lot of options out there. But I always believe that there's some good behind the nasty. There's always a lesson to learn. So the lesson is, yes, what I've learned from this comment, or what I'm learning from this comment, is that the bidirectional translation can be a chore or can be boring for some people. And I think that's life, and it's life on the one hand, and it's my duty to show how and why it's so efficient for those who want to give it a try. That would be my answer.
Thank you, Luca. We move on to the next hard-hitting, nasty comment about you. This person said in response...
I'm scared.
Hold on for dear life. This person, in response to one of your videos about memorizing thousands, if not millions of words, had this to say: "This is so disappointing to see. Luca is a fantastic polyglot, but that doesn't mean we have to follow his method. Comprehensible input together with extensive reading may be a better alternative. Memorizing 1 million words? No thanks. That sounds like the recipe for clinical depression."
I love the conclusion. I do agree that learning 1 million words can be a recipe for clinical depression. I don't remember exactly where this comment was. Probably in a video where I was talking about how I've learned a bunch of words, and my answer. And my answer is, I kind of remember this comment. I don't know if I replied. I don't think so. But the bottom line is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many languages one learns. What matters is what you do with the words you learn. In other words, when you start learning a language, you learn a bunch of words, of course, and maybe 50, maybe 100, the most common words. And then I think that the most important thing that you can do with these words is, do something purposeful, do something meaningful. So, for example, you have 100 words, you can start combining them, which is what I'm doing right now with Turkish. I'm having a lot of fun, even if I know barely 100 words. And then you can start forming simple sentences to express some ideas, or to express, to form some sentences. And the other part of the comments that I think is really interesting is that extensive reading is great. So the more you read, the better it is for you. But at the same time, in order to get there, you have to at least, let's say, get a grasp of how the language works. That's the reason why I normally use the bidirectional translation. And I don't really care that much about memorizing words at the very beginning. I always say this. This is really important. This is a really important concept. When it comes to learning words, especially at the beginning, our mental infrastructure is so small that learning new words is not that easy. So to me, the main task, the main purpose of the bidirectional translation and of what I do is actually to understand the language rather than memorize words. And then after 3-6 months, when my language infrastructure, so to speak, gets bigger and bigger, then words get attached to it more easily. Like flies flying in a room, like my spider web is getting bigger and the flies are more likely to stick to the ever-growing spider web. And the third thing I wanted to say, third comment, is that everybody learns their own way. There are some universal principles, but if one doesn't want to use the bidirectional translation or use my methods, they don't care about learning 1 million words, and I agree that leads to clinical depression or anything else, then they have their own path that they can choose, and they have to figure out the way for them to memorize and use words for meaningful communication or for meaningful consumption of whatever material they're consuming, they're going through. So that's the lesson I've learned from this comment.
Let's see what the lesson is from this comment. In response to a controversial video you put about Anki, the spaced repetition software, this person said, quote, "This free SRS software is inferior and irrelevant. Luckily, my patented method, the BDT, is far superior. Check the link down below. You can get it now for the low price of 199 euros. You talk about wasting learning time. Well, if time is money, then money is time. How much time would I waste if I bought into every language channel's patented learning method? You slander a piece of free software and then offer up your own 199 euro article. In the same breath, I applaud the barefaced audacity, if nothing else. Nice plug, mate. P.S. Fellow commenters, if you couldn't tell, this guy maybe has a conflict of interest. I would steer clear."
Very interesting comment. I would say fair enough, meaning that in the language learning world, in the world in general, everybody is talking about their own methods, and they think that their own methods is better, etc., etc. When I created that video, when I published the video, I knew I would get a lot of flack, because when it comes to talking about whether a method is good or a method is not efficient, etc., there is always a lot of controversy. I'm not sure how do you pronounce it.
Controversy would be correct, sir.
Controversy. I always get it wrong. Controversy when it comes to.
But you're a polyglot, fake polyglot.
Yes, shame on me. My English is like A2. So there's a lot of controversy because, again, people tend to take it personally. What I did was just stating what I believe, what has been my experience with Anki and the way I learn languages and the universal principles that are behind the method I use. But at the same time, again, if a person likes Anki, as I think I remember correctly, I say at the end of the video, like if you like Anki, use it. If you like Anki, the main point for me, was that whether you like Anki or not, that should come as the icing on the cake. It should never go to the detriment of actually listening and reading, watching. So just getting a lot of input. I know that this sounds trivial to me now after 30 years of learning languages, but the most important thing, the most significant, meaningful, and important activity you can engage in when it comes to language learning is consuming content that you find interesting, comprehensible, and challenging or slightly challenging. This is at the core of my language learning strategy. Then, we can debate and discuss whether Anki is good, whether flashcards are good or not, etc. I gave my own personal opinion, and I completely understand if someone points out, hey, you're selling a course, so you're like slandering something, and then you're saying, oh, take a look at my course, that's better. That was not my intention. It's never been my intention to put people down or put other products down. That's not really my style. I'm just saying I don't like this because of this reason. And then, you can take it in stride. You can think, okay, he's got a point or he doesn't have a point. In fact, in the under that video, there's a lot of people saying, Luca, I like what you said here because my experience with Anki has been exactly the same. And other people are like saying exactly the opposite. Who's this guy to talk about Anki? You don't understand anything. You've never tried it. And you have no right to talk about this. And I say, fair enough. YouTube, that's the reason why I put YouTube videos there, which we upload YouTube videos. It's just like for us to take a look, judge, write, comment, and as I said, everything is great.
Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants. Well, let's see what you have to say to this next comment.
Yes.
This next one is directed at a language of yours and not one of your European languages. This user said, and this is the video in which you spoke 11 languages, so this is about 3 years old, 4 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Your Chinese is obviously fake, not natural or fluent at all. Reading off a teleprompter. Wow, so impressive.
Well, when it comes to Chinese, he's probably right. I don't think that when I made that video, I was proud of making that video. I think it was a great video. It's not because of my language skills. It's because the ideas behind it. So the idea was to create a video where I speak every language. In every language, I say something that is useful. It's not like, look at me, I can speak 11 languages. That was not the point of the video. And when it comes to Chinese, I remember that like every time I make a video, whether it's multilingual or it's in English or it's in Italian, I'm always very critical to myself. I always look back and say, did I say things right? I could have said this better, and I made that mistake or that mistake, etc. And I do remember very well that the two languages I was a little bit, this didn't come out that well, were Magyar, Hungarian, and 中文, Chinese. And I thought, yeah, I could have done a better job, especially that the Chinese tones were not coming out very well. But the truth is, I just told myself, I'm not going to redo this video. And you know why? I thought, this is my level of Chinese now. I do not speak it this well because I haven't practiced it in like, when I made that video, I think it was 2020 or something like that. Yeah, 2020. I think it had been 7 years. I hadn't so much as touched anything when it comes to Chinese. And I still remember, by the way, that when I hosted, I think in 2016, I hosted a Chinese girl. I wanted to speak with her. So I hadn't spoken Chinese or done anything when it comes to Chinese for like 4 years. And I tried to say something like, let me see if I remember this now. 我工程师工作. So I wanted to say, I hope this is right. I'm not 100% sure. I used to work as an engineer. I wanted to work as an engineer. Like 工程师 is engineer. 工作 is to work. And I didn't remember for the life of me how to say 工作 to work. And I thought, gosh, I was just like, I was kind of fluent in Chinese because I was speaking it every day with people. Like, for example, when I started learning it back in 2008, I was so passionate about it. And I jumped on, there was a site that doesn't exist anymore. I was speaking every day with Chinese. We were going, oh, like they were very surprised. And then all of a sudden, 4 years down the path, I couldn't say 工作, like something like as basic as 我工作, like I work. And this is the big lesson from this comment, but the big lesson in general is that, especially when it comes to speaking skills, they degrade very fast when you don't speak a language. No matter which language, no matter the level, if you don't speak it, it just shrinks in your mind. It shrinks. It's inevitable. And at the same time, if you've been learning, the more languages you learn, and the more likely it is for other languages to be in the back burner, as they say, right? So, in my case, for example, Chinese, Japanese, Swedish, Dutch, Portuguese, these are languages that I barely speak. And when I get to speak them, I'm very rusty, especially when it comes to Chinese. And first, I accept it. And second, the good news is that, especially when it comes to Chinese, I learned the language. I got a good understanding and a good grasp of the language. If I have to go back to it, it might take a couple of weeks to go back to it. It might take a month, but I know how to get back to speaking it. It's just a matter of time and decisions. So fair enough. My Chinese sucked in that video, and he pointed that out. All the more power to you, sir.
Safe to say, exposed.
Exposed. Exposed.
Take that Chinese flag off your YouTube profile. Neo Winty, as a Chinese expert, I have to say, that's right. That's it. All right, this next person doesn't just take aim at your Chinese, but rather your status as a polyglot, referring to the fact that all you polyglots talk about is how to learn languages in X, Y, and Z languages without going further than that and talking about topics that you're unfamiliar about. So it says right here, I'll be much more convinced when I see you speaking those languages by having an extensive conversation about ordinary things with a native speaker of the languages. The reason for so many contrary claims is because many of these people are trying to sell you expletive, and their YouTube videos are basically commercials. They're searching for what? Suckers. What's the old saying? There's a sucker born every minute. P.T. Barnum.
Love it. Lovely comment. So I would say this is a very, I would go so far as to say that it's a fair criticism in the sense that there's a lot of people out there, and I'm not naming anybody, not making any names, but when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to producing videos in general, what you can do is that you can show amazing language skills without necessarily having amazing language skills. You can cut, you can edit, you can rehearse, you can prepare, etc., etc. So it's an excellent point. It's a fair point that, in order to assess whether a person can really speak a foreign language, you should first spend time with them to see them like act and react live across a number of a wide range of circumstances and talking about multiple topics. That's how you actually can assess and gauge one's level in a foreign language. That's the first thing. You can't get to see that on YouTube. It's difficult. You should get to know the person. And even if you saw a couple of hours of a person like freely speaking, you can tell, okay, this guy speaks well or this guy doesn't speak well. But then again, you have to spend time with them in order to understand. As far as I'm concerned, I do have some videos where I speak for an extended period of time in English, French, Spanish. I have it in Russian, I have it in Polish, and I have it in other languages. And I should make more videos in that regard, speaking like I'm speaking to you in English, with long form interviews, etc. It's just that I haven't done it. I haven't produced many of those videos out there, but the thing is, I don't have to prove whether I can actually speak these languages. I do it for my personal life. I tend to have long conversations in my personal life, and I can do that on YouTube. It's not a problem. But to make a long story short, I understand why some people can criticize me thinking that I belong to that group of people who are fake polyglots or like cut and edit stuff. I can tell you that I'm not that, in the sense that I learn languages to live a better life. So I don't learn languages to impress people on YouTube. When I hopped on YouTube for the first time, I just wanted to naturally, like really, I was driven by this desire of sharing what I could do. I still remember the first time, it was like the 22nd of May, 2008. I just said, I got to do this. It's just like I just turned on this really crappy camera, pardon my French, and I just shot a video. I just filmed a video of me speaking 8 languages. It was the worst video I've ever done, not in terms of content, but in terms of quality. But then people appreciated that I was sharing that. And I never got criticized at the very beginning for saying, oh, you just said a couple of sentences in this language and that language. It's easy, because people were super enthusiastic about the fact that I had made a video speaking those languages, and they could tell, they got a glimpse of, oh, this guy is actually good speaking these languages. It was exciting back in the day. So we moved from excitement back in the day where you could not see a lot of polyglots around to fears and harsh criticism for so many polyglots being out there and everybody wanting to share their products, etc. But my suggestion for those who leave nasty comments is like, why are you leaving a nasty comment, right? It's like you just watched a video for 20 minutes and then the only thing you leave is a nasty comment. What does that say about your state of mind and your mindset, rather than the person the person who made the video? That's a lesson for those who leave a lot of nasty comments. It's because they have personal problems. I know this sounds harsh, but that's the way it is. If you had a super duper life and you were like satisfied with what you have, I do not think you would be lurking on the internet, lurking on YouTube, leaving nasty comments about other people's work. But that's my only take. That's it.
I think the comments will be filled with the following phrases: fraud, gaslighting, victim blamer.
Oh boy.
Luca, we thank you for this session of hard-hitting questions and nasty comments with Luca, and we look forward to another one in the future.
Thank you. Peace and love to you all. Ciao, ciao.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Ciao.